My guest last Saturday told us that whilst her dad was okay with her not wanting to go to university, he had a caveat. She must keep busy and not be idle. They supported her decision whilst instilling strong work ethics in her. That to me is a great example of building your child's self-esteem and character. And ironically, she ended up going to university, not because she was forced, but because she saw the need to and made the choice on her own. So how does one build self-esteem in their children so that throughout their lives, they make the right choices for themselves, stand up firm in the face of adversity, don't allow the world to define them, and stay true to their convictions whilst also doing what needs to be done, like work hard and make impact? My guest, Eniola Olajobi, is here today to give us some insights. Eniola Shakira Olajobi is the founding president of the Association of Nigerian Educational Psychologists. She has a background in chemistry, guidance counseling, and educational psychology at graduate and postgraduate levels from the University of Lagos. She also has a certification in school leadership and management from Harvard Business School and Harvard Graduate School of Education. With her experience spanning over a decade, Eniola has been working with teachers, education policymakers, parents, and students to unleash their enormous potential and direct them towards nation building. She recently published a series of emotional wellness kits for children and teens. Welcome, Eniola. It really is awesome to have you here. We almost didn't make it because of the Lagos traffic.
Yeah. But good morning, Feran. Good morning, all. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It really is. So let's delve right in. What defines self-esteem?
So basically, self-esteem is about one's confidence in one's own ability, like self-perception, how you view your worth or how you think you're being judged by other people. And this basically is also a measure of what you think your achievements or accomplishments are.
How is it that some people have bucket loads of self-esteem and then some have deficits?
Okay, so basically, we're not born with a certain level of self-esteem, even though there are a few things that happen before birth. So once a baby is conceived and a woman is pregnant, a child could typically begin to grow their personality, and that could form basis for self-esteem.
Before birth?
Before birth, yes, during pregnancy. So research, for example, has shown that a woman who's having a very traumatic happening or incidents during pregnancy can actually affect her unborn child. So if she's in a low mood, she's crying, or she's depressed or something, all of those things can be passed on to our unborn child. So that already sets a template. But basically, self-esteem begins to grow when a child is born. And it begins from the ability to do things. So naturally, we're all born with that ability to want to try out new things. And we know to try out new things we need to do. And from doing, we learn. So these three things are what adds up to building self-esteem. So depending on what the experience is from individual to individual, you would see some individuals having a higher self-esteem than others because when they try to do, they get the chance to do it. When they get the chance and they feel that someone who's telling them you can do it, who's cheering them through it, who's giving them encouragement, who's hand-holding them, praising them, and then they learn that it's okay to make mistakes, and then they get the confidence to do more. And the more you do, with self-esteem, is almost like a balloon. And how fragile the fabric with which your balloon is made of will depend on the kind of feedback you get when you try things out. For some others, when they try things out, they hear, no, you can't do it, or don't worry, I'll do it for you. It can be one of two extremes. Whether you're helping the child is not good enough, or whether you're just shutting the child down, say, shut up, you can't do it, get away, get lost. So that individual is getting a very negative feedback, and the person begins to internalize, I can't do this right. So in as much as there can be biological factors influencing self-esteem, it's basically nurture. Because when you have even a set of twins being brought up in different environments, if one of them gets the thumbs up, you can do it, try again, and the other one is getting, no, don't even try that, then ultimately the first one is going to grow a healthier self-esteem than the other one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do parents, you've touched on it, but can you give us a bit more insight? How do parents begin to build self-esteem in their children? But before you answer that, Also, what happens when the parent themselves has self-esteem issues?
That's a slightly complicated one, because you see, a lot of times parents do bleed on their children. And
What do you mean by bleed?
So when a parent battles some challenge with emotional wellness, which can include low self-esteem, they can do things that would harm the children further and would cause a low self-esteem in children. And that's why I say there's a biological part of self-esteem. It's not that there's a blood component that can be passed on from parent to children about high or low self-esteem. It is that when you say it can be hereditary, it is that we learn from the way our parents do things and they handle things. So when parents have low self-esteem, for example, they're likely to lash out on their kids, they're likely to shout at their kids, they're likely to maybe overindulge sometimes, because sometimes when parents realize that they struggle in a certain way, they don't want their children to struggle, but they don't realize it's not by indulging them. So they move to another extreme and they over shelter these kids, and they don't make them try out things because they don't even want them to fail. They just want them to have things on a platter of gold. So when parents battle with low self-esteem, it's not until they're able to identify that they can help themselves first, because before they help their children. Because with self-esteem, like I said, is about your self-worth, how you view yourself. So if a parent doesn't view themselves in the right light, there's no way they can help their children.
Wow.
Yes.
So then to the first question of how does the parent begin to build self-esteem?
Self-esteem. Okay, so I think I'll go back to say that parents should realize that self-esteem starts from day one. A lot of times, parents begin to pay attention to self-esteem when a child is hitting the teenage years, when they begin to see obvious signs of low self-esteem. But typically, self-esteem should begin from, excuse me, when a child is born. So when a child wants to try out things, a child is trying to take a step, maybe to learn to walk or something, parents should give thumbs up, should give encouragement, should smile. Even when a child is still in the cradle, an infant who's on the bed, smile at them, tell them things. Don't treat them as though they're not important, because they're taking everything. Like I said, learning begins before birth. So the children know what's going on. So you see them, you smile, oh, you look lovely today. Say good things to them. Let them get used to someone loving them, because love is what breeds a healthy self-esteem. And as they grow older, we need to let them know that there's certain things that are not negotiable. Mommy's always going to love you. Daddy's always going to love you, even when you do things that are not good enough. Because a lot of times, children grow up very self-critical, because we get very angry at them when they do stuff, and they think mommy just likes, or daddy just likes the good version, the good child that I could be. But when I'm naughty, they hate me. But when children know that no matter what, mommy and daddy will always love me, it's an opportunity for them to grow their self-esteem. And then, of course, we need to be firm. So parents should let their children know that, no, you can have this, but it's not a measure of my love for you. Discipline is still something that must come to play in grooming children's self-esteem. Because again, like I said earlier, self-esteem is like a balloon, but then the fabric can differ. So we also want to toughen up our children, because when we make everything smooth and easy for them, when life happens, and life will always happen, when they go out there into the world, whether they go off to secondary school or they go off to college, and they get anyone to puncture their self-esteem, if the fabric is too light, it's just going to deflate their self-esteem. So we also want to create limits for our children. We want to be able to tell them, no, it's okay, you can't have that. You can't always have what you want, but that doesn't mean that it's not the end of the world and I'm always going to be there, I'm always going to love you. You've done something not so good, but I'm not going to put the two together. I'm going to separate what you've done from who you are. Who you are will always be someone who's there to me, even when you do things that are not pleasing to me. So I think these are some of the basic things that parents should do to help their children.
Wow.
Yeah.
As you were talking, I had a scenario in my head, which I see happen a lot. A toddler, is walking and they fall or they hit something. And all the adults around run to the child. Is that good for the child in building their self-esteem? Because the adult's instinct is to go and protect the child.
Yeah, typically. I wouldn't say yes or a no, but I would say that when a toddler is trying to walk and they fall, it's okay to leave them for a while, and if it's not a bad fall, let the child pick himself or herself up. They might look at you and then just give a smile and a nudge on, and then they get up again and they try it, because it's natural. That's nature at play. But when we all go around and there's nothing, isn't that there's like an accident or a serious fall, that child learns to become over-dependent. And so even when they should be able to try things out, even at age 4, when they should be able to maybe pull on their own clothing or try the socks on, they want to say something like, "Mommy, help me, I can't do it." And when a child learns early in life to think there's something they can't do, it's very dangerous. It's a red flag for self-esteem, because those are part of the things that makes what's it called now? Limiting belief. Those are part of the things that creates the limiting belief in children. So you want the child to have this "I can do it" spirit. And almost every child comes with it. You see a child wants to walk, they take a step. Sometimes they're afraid. You should encourage, come on, come on, come. And even when they fall, "Oh, it's okay, get up, get up." If it's not a dangerous fall or something fatal or anything like that, I mean, it's okay to just let the child be. But when every adult comes together and they want to help this child, it gives the child an impression that somebody somewhere will always fix things for me, and that's very bad for self-esteem.
Wow. Okay. If you get it wrong as a parent, and then your child gets to their teens, and the manifestations of low or bad or
Low
self-esteem
yeah.
starts presenting itself, can it be fixed?
Of course, it can be fixed. It can be fixed. The first thing that parents need to realize is that it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's not also going to be a one step to stardom. It's going to be gradual. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of commitment and consistency on the part of everyone that wants to help that child. So that child will need to go through a lot of reassurance, because there's some things that would have built up that most likely are negative. So it's about getting those ones off. It's about unlearning those things. It's about the voices in the child of this child that's saying, "You're not good enough. You're not. People don't like you." And then we also want to look at other feeders, because sometimes for children with low self-esteem, it might have started out as a result of family interactions or immediate environment interactions, but as they grow on later, there might be influences from social media and the likes. So there has to be a halt to where these feeders are coming in from, because sometimes children are getting a build-up of "I'm not good enough" from other means, or maybe from school bullying and stuff. So when we identify where these things are coming in from, and we try to reduce or even stop it totally, it can help this child to unlearn, and then this child begins to understand that, look, I have to be able to punch fear in the face and try things out. It's okay to make mistakes. We need this child to be able to affirm that they're worth something.
How do we as the adults identify those feeders? And where's the balance? Because some parents will now say, "No more social media." And that in itself, I don't think is productive.
Yes, so I think that it's just very important for parents to be observant and know where the feeders are coming from. It's also important to build a bond with children so that we can have conversations with them. Because a lot of times things are going on in the life of our teenagers and we have no idea. So when parents have a relationship and they have conversations frequently, they can pick on some of these feeders even without the child identifying them. And then, of course, I would say that generally, social media is not child's play. And parents want to be careful with how they expose their children to social media, because a lot of teenagers are getting drowned in social media these days. So I think it's important to breed children who are very emotionally gritty before attempting to throw them out there into social media. Because the way I see social media, it's like being on the highway. And there's some level of street smartness that you would need to be on the highway. So I think that when parents have this kind of bond and relationship with their children, they can identify the feeders from conversations. It might even be friends, like I said, or even other interactions. And it might be someone in the house and the parents doesn't even know. Maybe the housekeeper or a relative or somebody who's always saying, "You're no do good, I knew we're not going to get it right." These are all the negative talks that could come to impact self-talk and could convert self-talk from positive to negative. And the brain has its way of somehow attracting itself to negative self-talk, and you just see this child repeating, I knew I couldn't do it, after all my aunt said so, or my mom said, because sometimes even parents are the feeders for negative self-esteem.
I fully, that's why I smiled. I fully understand what you mean by that. Okay, so on the flip side, can you have too high self-esteem?
I do not believe that you can have a self-esteem that's too high, because the word self-esteem in itself is a very healthy word. You can have a superiority complex, which is the other extreme of feeling like you're better than everybody else. But self-esteem as a word is a balanced word, because self-esteem, when you begin to believe that you have confidence in yourself, what it does is it helps you to see other people in their different light. You begin to appreciate everyone else for who they are. You develop the right level of empathy, and with empathy you can begin to feel pompous or something like that, because you believe that everyone with their competencies, because you have your competencies, you appreciate them, and you know that they will be different from that of the next person, and that's okay. So self-esteem in itself is healthy, and it can't be too much.
Can we as adults take advantage of the tools that technology today brings? Internet, Google, social media. Yes, you've said social media is like a highway, but there are benefits to these electronic tools. A lot of parents tend to give their children tablets to occupy their time, or, can we take advantage of these things without destroying the child's self-esteem?
Sure, we can. We just have to be very mindful about it. We have to plan it. We have to, measure it, so that we can also limit it. Because then, with exposure or excessive use comes all the problems that we talked about. So it has to be done in a very healthy manner, and it has to also be done in a way that the gadgets and the technology and digital is for use by humans. So we have to ensure we maintain that balance, because what we tend to see when there's an excessive use is that the gadget begins to use the person rather than the other way around, because you now see somebody who's been almost micromanaged by their internet or by their gadgets. Batteries flat, they're jittery, they're jumping up and down. Oh my God, my battery's flat. Addiction sets in because they have to be with their phones all the time. They're not getting enough sleep because there's this fear of missing out. FOMO, they call it. You just want to know what's going on Instagram. Oh, TikTok, what are they showing? It becomes dangerous. So definitely there's a lot of good in it, but parents need to be mindful, and they have to plan it. It shouldn't just be accidental. What we see a lot of times is that it just happens. Oh, my child needs a tab. Oh, there's an assignment from school. Oh, there's an old phone I don't use anymore. Oh, you can have it. So it's not usually planned and then becomes dangerous. But parents should plan it way before it actually happens. Do I think my child is ready for this? How's my child's personality, maturity, self-esteem? Have I seen any indicators? Have I seen any red flags that may scare me or that may concern me as a parent? Do I need to talk to a third party to be sure of how to go about this? Those are questions that parents should ask before taking advantage of technology in this regard.
Fair. Okay. That makes sense. It makes absolute sense. So before we round up, my last question: can you give us 3 tools as parents/adults on how to prepare our children for today's world?
Okay, let me see. 3 tools. Okay, trying to think of 3 most important.
What are the 3 most we need to do to build their self-esteem?
I think the first thing is time. We need to be available, because there's some things that the children would naturally learn from us when we're available as adults, and when they make mistakes, we'll be able to give them the encouragement they need to realize that it's okay to make mistakes. So I think time is number 1.
Okay.
That would lead to the next thing, which is emotional grit or emotional preparation. I'm trying to think
stamina.
of how stamina. Thank you. Emotional stamina. Because when we're available for the children and we're able to help them navigate by hand-holding them, because children need to be held, at the same time we can't carry them, because that's another extreme, we're indulging them. So when parents are available, they would ensure an emotional stamina, because what we see out there in the world today is that children need to be tougher than we were when we were kids, because we dealt with certain kind of challenges. But our children are dealing with a lot more dynamic challenges. They're having to deal with real and virtual challenges. I had to deal with physical bullies in school only, but my children will have to deal with physical as well as virtual bullies. There's now cyberbullying and all the rest of them. So we need children who are more emotionally gritty than ever before. So that's the second one. And I think the third one is, I think that's self-help, giving the children that independence to be able to go ahead and build their own person. So I think that a lot of times we do helicopter parenting and we don't allow those children to be themselves. We want them to live in our own shadow, or, oh, no. I don't want my child to be this, I don't want my child to be that, or I want my child to be this or be that. So I think allowing the children to be themselves and become who they want to be, rather than making too many decisions for them. Because you see, part of self-esteem is their ability to take the right decisions, and it would ultimately start from taking some wrong decisions, you know. So we need to
allowing
allow
them to make
children,
mistakes.
yes, we should allow
learn
them
from them
to make mistakes.
So we have to give them, we have to have time for them. We have to build their emotional stamina, and we have to allow them to be independent individuals. Eniola, thank you so much. We've run out of time.
Oh, already? Okay.
There's never enough time, but in the short time we had, there was a lot of insight that you were able to pack into that. And I'm really, really very grateful. And I really, really hope that anybody who's watching, I really do hope that you're taking notes and you're learning certain things that we need to ultimately build up children who are balanced and become decent members of society. You know, because these children are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. Sure.
Thank you, Feran, for having me.
Thank you so much. It really was awesome. I'm glad you did. I'm really glad you did. Thank you. So we've come to the end of this segment. John, Helen, and myself will round up the show in a few minutes. So please, please stay tuned. Thank you.